We're now going to take a quick look at the concepts introduced in the Performance Standard. Area of influence. An entity's area of influence is broken into three components. The first of which are areas likely to be affected by the entity's activities and facilities, and/or impacts from unplanned but predictable developments that may occur later or at a different location, and/or indirect project impacts on biodiversity or on ecosystem services upon which affected communities' livelihoods are dependent. This includes the project's site, the immediate airshed and watershed or transit corridors, and indirect impacts that could include power transmission corridors, pipelines, canals, tunnels, relocation and access roads, borrow and disposal areas, construction camps, and contaminated land. The second component includes areas likely to be affected by associated facilities. Associated facilities are those that are not controlled by the entity, but that would not otherwise have been constructed or expanded, and without which the entity's activities would not be viable. These include facilities such as ports, dams, railways, roads, captive power plants or transmission lines, pipelines, utilities, warehouses, or logistics terminals. The third component of area of influence encompasses areas likely to be affected by cumulative impacts that result from the incremental impact on areas or resources used or directly impacted by the entity's activities from other existing, planned, or reasonably defined developments at the time the risks and impacts identification process is conducted. This could include the incremental contribution of emissions to an airshed, reduction of water flows in a watershed, increases in sediment loads to a watershed, interference with migratory routes or wildlife movement, or more traffic congestion and accidents. Some activities and related impacts risks in an area of influence may not be under the control of the entity. However, where required by these criteria, these impacts and risks shall still be assessed by the entity, and, wherever practicable, mitigation measures and/or controls should be put in place. Associated facilities, which are part of an entity's area of influence, but not under the entity's control, are not part of the certification scope. In other words, the activities and related impacts of associated facilities, which are not under the entity's control, are not factored into determining the entity's conformance. For example, an associated facility such as a port that is operated by a third party that an entity uses to import raw materials or export finished product cannot be included in the certification scope. However, the entity may specify, as part of the contract with the port, that it reports any spill of the entity's material or product into the local harbor so that the entity might be able to assist with the recovery or cleanup. Or the entity may provide advice on reasonable measures to take in the event of a spill so as to minimize environmental impacts to water quality and the local marine ecosystem.